Courage grows strong in a wound. It's written down the side of my power sword in High Gothic, a reminder that hardship breeds resilience, that pain and suffering can forge a tougher, stronger individual when they come out the other side. Sounds like some fortune cookie bullcrap to me, but hey, looks and sounds cool in Latin, so might as well consecrate your blade with it, right? I'm sure the Mobian Six will appreciate that wisdom as it cleaves their necks in twain. Today's video is going to be a little bit different because we're going to Darktide school in this one. The power sword receives some big changes in the most recent update, with damage across the board getting boosted substantially, but there is a lot you probably don't know about this weapon. The Munitor Mark 6 is one of the highest skill cap and interesting melee options in the game right now, and if you asked anybody what they'd think about the power sword 6-7 months ago, what they think it'd be like now, they would laugh in your face if you said anything of the sort. It has a reputation for being extremely simple, and a lot of those misconceptions derive from a time where it was arguably the most OP melee weapon in the game. While there may have been shades of truth there, the reality on patch 1.2 is quite different. With activation block cancels, a variety of different combos, and all kinds of intricacies that alter how it performs in different situations. It's easy enough to pick up and play initially, but it is extremely difficult to master, and so we're going to have Tiny Angry Crab, a deeply seasoned and knowledgeable Darktide player, give us the full breakdown and teach us everything we need to know about its nuances. If you're interested in the power sword, I think this breakdown will be very enlightening. Big shout out and thank you to him for taking the time out of his day.
So now the idea is basically that for all the power swords, you have 3 different use cases for activation. The first is very simple. You have light, and for a weapon like this, the light is mostly the most common horde clear. And the light actually doesn't have great fall off. So, and this is something else that's worth mentioning, which is a lot of people think this weapon has infinite cleave or no fall off. This is not true. And the reason this is relevant, and this is one of the reasons why it was such a bad weapon. So these guys are 688 HP. If I have a power sword that doesn't have brutal momentum, this is, you want to talk about blessings, this is a good point to bring up. Actually, I'll just do it with this one. So this is a power sword 3 with no brutal momentum, they have the same light profile. That light killed one of them, and by the time it hits the third target, it's doing like
nothing.
Yeah, it's doing like 400. Only one target is dying at a time. It genuinely has cleave fall off, and that's a situation brutal momentum solves. So if you have brutal momentum on a power sword 6, your light goes from killing like 1 or 2 enemies of swing to killing like 4.
God damn.
It's pretty good. But this is the first thing. It really is like, if you want a weapon that will just get rid of a horde of moderately thick, especially things like bruisers and stuff, and you're willing, because the other thing is brutal momentum, head height swings. So, the major difference between the Power Sword 6 and Power Sword 3 is obviously the angle of the heavies. They are basically the same heavy. This heavy is really not very good. It has extra cleave and a bit of extra damage, but the only real yes, and there are a couple of things that you can use it for, but they're really specific. So the first one is just, this is, by the way, originally was meant to be the point of the weapon, this push attack. And the idea is basically that this push attack is like a single target stab that's followed up by the 4th light. So unlike Power Sword 3, Power Sword 6 has this much more interesting moveset where it has a light combo that ends in a strike down. And the reason that this is interesting is that these lights can be empowered, but Power Cycler only takes you to 3. So before this rework, you could never get an empowered strike down light, unless you had a bug. Or it was before they nerfed Power Cycler. So there's a reason for this empowered 4th light to exist. And the second thing is, it is really, really stupid if the only thing you ever do with the Power Sword 6 is activate, light, 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 activate, light. And the first thing that's happened is this is your major single target attack against heavy armor. Activated push attack.
How important is the strike down to follow up after? Do you ever find yourself just doing stab instead of...
You can't, and this is one of the interesting things about it. So if you do this, and then you try and push attack again, the follow-up push attack is not empowered. So, and the reason for this is, this is one of those weird undocumented things. Power Cycler actually requires a continuous attack chain. Until you, it's inactive, and then when you hit an enemy, you're now on an attack chain condition. And so if you go like, I'm going to light twice, block, and then light again, not powered anymore.
Yeah.
So if you ordinarily push attack while you're activated, you can't get an empowered push attack. So the only way to get an empowered push attack is to activate and then immediately push attack. And that's why empowered push attack has never been used, because why would you? It just drops your combo effectively. But the problem with empowered push attack is that this push takes up time, and because of the sheer amount of damage that the heavies and lights people are used to it doing, the time isn't justifiable unless you can cancel. And so the difference between Power Sword 3 and 4 is also this. If I'm walking, you can sprint while activating, by the way, which a lot of people don't realize, but this sprint activation, I'm literally stopping while I'm doing it. I'm still in sprint state, so I can turn sideways and do this to avoid damage if I really wanted to, but you get slowed down. On Power Sword 3, this is not the case, and this has always been the case. One of them is like 100 milliseconds longer than the other for some reason. Like on Power Sword 3, you literally just keep sprinting. And so now, if you hold block when you activate, you will automatically cancel the activation, like 300 milliseconds into the block. Like that. If you, while you're doing this, press attack, you will immediately cancel it into the push attack really quickly. The input's a little bit fiddly, and this push attack chains to the light strike down, which is the highest activated damage attack on carapace and unyielding. So this is armor type specific.
Yeah, so I kept doing block cancel push tab into block cancel push tab. So I would like try and two shot the like a crusher or something that way.
Oh, like this?
Yeah, yeah.
Right, yeah. So so this is actually deliberate. The other problem is these weapons have, right, is Power Cycler. Let's front load the damage against like the biggest targets. So if you don't have a Power Cycler Power Sword, you can just do this rotation. You're not fucked.
But if you have Power Cycler, you should be doing the strike down.
You should be doing the strike down, but it's slightly lower damage. So there are actually some. If you don't have, so this weapon has 10% elites on it for whatever godforsaken reason. If I took off 10% elites, I'd have to do double push attack, which is one of those weird things. And for most players, if they haven't like thought about this, they will have to do and then a third light, depending on how good their roll is. Because the other thing is I'm running Brutal Momentum, and Brutal Momentum gives you a bit of extra weak spot damage.
Yeah.
And this is just enough with the stuff on the vet tree to push you to this breakpoint, which is just one of those funny coincidences. The other thing is, and this is really important to remember this node here is weak spot damage that works on your melee weapons.
Yeah.
But so is this. That's 2,800 damage.
Oh my god!
If I perked Carapace, that's a one shot.
Oh my god!
So if you wanted to do it for the and the reason why this is relevant, and this is something I think a lot of people, they go, oh, that's a gimmick, and it's like, no, but that's not a gimmick, because actually there are lots of occasions where you are playing a sharpshooter build, you're getting pressed by heavy big boys in melee, and it's like, I have to kill these guys with my melee weapon. It doesn't matter if I'm using Executioner stance. I'll take 50% more damage for the next 10 seconds. I'll take that. You know what? That's all I've got. The other thing about this weapon, it reduced block cost.
What are the numbers between this and the Power Sword 3 on block cost reduction?
Power Sword 6 has 25% reduced block cost. And the other thing about this, by the way, is this is one of the really big stealth buffs. You can see my stamina is regenerating between the swings. I have both of the stam delay reduction nodes. If you only have one of them, it's still a pretty long time. You can do about 10 or 12 seconds of continuous blocking. And the point about this is just that, like, you shouldn't be sitting there holding block, but you do have the option of blocking without it being that expensive on this weapon, and the block is fast, the block is good, and the block comes out really quickly from bad activations. So you have a little bit of safety to play with. People love spamming dodge. This weapon, at the moment, the Power Sword 3, I frankly think is a noob trap, which is why I didn't... The Power Sword 6 is straightforwardly better at the moment. There are a very small number of situations that 3 is better in, but Power Sword 6 has better single target, it's safer, it has the same ability, but it has better blocks, and it has a faster moveset in general if you know how to do the cancel. I want it that way because I think Power Sword 3 is a horrible design, The only thing you can do with that weapon at the moment is spam empowered heavies, which are flat, or use the push attack to get single target. So that's the part of this that is relevant to Power Sword 3 is it now has that same push attack single target feature. So on Power Sword 3, you do still want to push attack like a Crusher or something. But the other thing is that your damage on, like, for example, Flak, this push attack is good, but it's not that much better than just hitting with some lights. And here is the final feature. This push attack does not have stagger. And this is relevant because if you are fighting Rages, for example, and this is something I've seen a lot of people say, which is really confused. If there are two Rages here, and I push attack one of them, he's not going to get staggered, he's going to ignore it. If I just do an activated light, it'll stagger both of them. And here is where it really gets spicy. The timing on this activation cancel, you can fit it in between Rager swings. That's activated 3 times in his face. Although you have to know timing. That has a different card. That specific combo is such a bait. You have to do it here if you want to do it. But like, and you can hold block. By the way, this if you're doing the push attack, you have to change the input. But if you just want to block cancel, you can hold block, press activate. You'll activate and immediately return to block. So it's a really safe input, and that's worth telling people 100%. Because if you want to do the funny haha, it's like a lot of other situations. The answer is he's in my face. I need to get away. And it's like, no, if you've got a 6, you can just do this. And I could have clicked twice more because he'll be chain staggered and he'll die if I hit him 3 times in the head. So this is another thing. Oh, for fuck's sake. Stop it. Fuck you. They're not... The subjects aren't cooperating!
New player!
Oh my god, I hate this. So this is one of those things where...
You're nervous, dude. It's fine. I get it.
No. It's something that makes me mauled. His arms block the swings. So what we're going to do is we're going to pretend this never happens. It does happen, unfortunately. And the only reason this is relevant is because if he does this animation or this animation, it won't. If he does the uppercut, it will. Anyway, besides the point, basically you don't really want to push attack trade unless it's going to kill him. So if I were to say push attack trade here, he'll just hit me. You can, however, do this. And that would kill him if I had Maniacs on the weapon. This doesn't have Maniacs. You would usually run Maniacs on this.
Can you hit one-shot breakpoints on the push tab to the head?
To a Maniac, no. With the power-up you could, but the breakpoint you want is this. Not that. That one. So basically what you want is a body shot and 2 headshots kills. Because that means that no matter where you hit him, you can then line up after the stagger. I have to hit 3 headshots because this is a roll that doesn't have the what's it. If you have this node here, the breakpoints will change because it's melee finesse. But this is from the point of view of someone who just has like the damage nodes you're going to assume most people are going to have at the moment.
Yeah.
If you're fighting multiple, you just play safe, which is you're just tagging and you're getting the fuck away. If you have a Power Sword 3, you can actually hit more than this. And you just never need to be greedy. I can just sit here and just be like, and this is without any block construction. And don't do what I just did there. You never need to be greedy. Even if there's like 3 of them, you can just walk up and be like... That dodge just reset. I'm out of there. Although you don't want to do what I did there, which is don't face away. Okay, so this is something also worth mentioning. Block cost.
Only to the front. I assume at angle.
Yeah, and this is the Power Sword penalty. It's really horrible on this weapon.
Oh.
So you really cannot afford to be taking it in the bump. You actually have to point it. Whereas if he's in front, it's like way less bad. So that is definitely worth noting. And I debated changing that, but what I really want to do is keep... So this thing about like the activation. There's a bunch of situations where you are... Because the activation is so fast if you go into the push attack, if you have multiple single targets, you don't need the 3rd empowered swing. You're actually better off like... Because you can almost think of doing this as beginning a new chain. The other thing to mention is, if you are doing this push attack and the push attack kills them, and then you want to do AoE, you have to then charge a heavy. Because if I've got like, let's say a bunch of goon little lads here, and I've had to do a diss in order to they're pressuring me, and I've had to do a block cancel like this, and I don't want to just go into a light because this light is delayed, and I want to go straight into the push attack. So I just go like, oh. that will only hit 2 of them because it's a strike down. But you can do like, that, and you just back dodge, and you get like a nice big swing. More useful on Poxwalkers because they're slower. But that's the only real use for a heavy that I have most of the time. Is you heavy to get out of this, or you can't QQ cancel it, unfortunately. So don't even think about that. I've got about that. Don't ever QQ cancel this weapon. You'll just lose a charge. But that's pretty much it. It is a very block focused weapon. The push attack headshot thing into the strike down L4 is really important. Dodge is dog shit. You really want to save your dodges, and especially when if you're fighting multiple crushers, you need to block some of these attacks. On unyielding, it's like 2 to 3k. So lights to the face of a Reaper will do 2k. The push stab will do 3. So it's relevant specifically against if you were trying to optimize your rotation against a spawn, especially if you're dueling a boss. And so this is like, if you're fighting a Plogren, he's hanging out. So the first thing is, right, he's going to do stuff like this. And you can see if I just do like, okay, that was 1500, so I slightly underestimated. But if I do this, you would want to push attack through that, right? You could push attack through this, and you can just about make it with a lot of stam. If he does, the thing you really want to block, though, is you could probably get away with this, yeah. That. So basically, it's just like lots of situations where you need the safety, and it's better to eat a block than to just get hit in the face. With the spawn, it's very much the case. If you really were to be a tryhard, there are a bunch of attacks where you could push attack through that. You push trade to the last attack there. You would push trade through, yep, this one. If he does the slam, yep, you'd push a trade through the second one there.
But on most of these bosses, the push tab is kind of the bread and butter of how you want to deal damage. Headshot with that, and you're...
If you can, yeah, it's the highest single thing, and it's just like... If you're playing properly versus a spawn, you are default blocking because you're a vet and you can't afford to just randomly be taking dings. And if you're blocking, you've lost your charge. And that means you're always activating. And if you're activating, the fastest way to get an activated attack is activated push attack, which is also the most front-loaded damage and the thing you're most likely to get if you don't have Power Cycler. So I haven't solved the issue of Power Cycler, but it very much is just to be the case that your ability to get to like the first charge is much more important, and it's not so much gated by having Power Cycler 4. Power Cycler 4 gives you the brain dead horde clear, and just to show off, like, people who don't understand that this weapon is bullshit again, I would have chosen numbers that were 10% lower than this, but people are actually still crying about it. So if I had to spawn like 20 guys, look at the time it takes to kill this. Oops. However, you have to be careful because, for example, this is also something that's really useful to do. If you know about blocking to a neutral attack is pretty good. So this is, you don't have to. You can block cancel to a neutral attack. It's like the timing is a little bit. No, that's too early. Probably have to line it up. I have to guess when he's going to tell me it. It's that. The problem with that is it's like that's a little bit more trigger discipline on the block button than most people have. So it's like that.
And what does that do exactly?
So ordinarily, if I want to get the fastest attack, I'm doing the push attack, which is that. But it's like I'm holding block and pressing the attack input. But if I want the sideways sweep, I'm going activate, hold block, wait for the activation to cancel, letting go of block and pressing light the frame after.
Yeah.
And it's neutral. It's just the thing about this weapon is, and this is the only reason why it has the numbers that it has. This weapon is not that technical in the meat grinder. You will fucking die using this thing. And I don't tell people this, but this weapon is really, really hard to use because everyone thinks that they're the world's best player. And it's like, yeah, this is, if you theoretically play perfectly, this is one of the most damaging, best weapons in the game. you can kill 5 bruisers in a single swing. You can two-shot a crusher. You can perfectly duel a boss with not Thunderhammer DPS, but like really, really respectable. I'm using a proper weapon DPS. You can get out of a lot of situations. You can handle multiple rages, technically, if you play perfectly and have the space. But you fuck up once, you're dead. Because this thing has a tempo problem. It's like you don't remember, like you fall. It's like in a fighting game, right? You go into negative frames the moment you get hit. Because if I am fighting this guy and I haven't activated a thing, not that actually, but many attacks. There we go. You will lose your charge on melee staggers. Although he didn't do it, but
So it's a really safe weapon when you are playing well, but when
you're
screw
ahead,
up,
yes.
yeah, when you're screwing up, you make yourself extremely vulnerable.
Yes, and that's more a feature of that, but also the dodges, and that's why if I would say if you're going to use this, this is like you really do you're opting into the glass cannon. This is the most glass cannon weapon in the game. You need to not spam dodges. You need to control your dodging. And because the other problem is that you've got 4 dodges, but the most important thing for multiple rages, and this is, by the way, something that a lot of people don't realize, if you do a back, so you know how if I'm blocking, if I press dodge and crouch at the same time, I get a really slow slide, like that.
Yeah.
If I do it if I hold backwards, sorry, if I press backwards, dodge and slide all at the same time, like that, you get a really short slide. You have to be holding backwards for a little bit of time before the game gets that you're kind of moving backwards. So you have to do this. And even that, you can see how short that was, right?
Yeah, it was not impressive.
And you have to do that. So it's like even the distance of the slide input has to be right. Because you can slide activate, right? Like, or rather not like that, but you could go like, okay, he started, I need to get out of here. There we go, now I can slide activate, right? You can only do that with full dodges, because that slide costs 2 dodges a slide. If you've been spamming dodge, you have to wait for the dodges to come back. That means you've got to block. You haven't moved if you're blocking. You know what I mean? It's like you have to account for every single thing, even for very simple situations. And if you get caught out, like if he staggers me while I'm activating, I've lost the activation, or which he would do if I got staggered properly, because I don't know what's going on. Oh, because I've got invulnerability on. All right. But yeah, it's great when you're in control of the situation. If you are happy playing something very risky, it's not quite a win more because you have the tools to turn bad situations in your favor. So like, because one of the common situations that you run into, if you're a you're a pure sharpshooter guy, and you see this shit in front of you, like I'm a Devil Claw enthusiast, but if I see this shit in front of me on Devil Claw, I'm just like, this is not great. But with this weapon, I could be like, okay, I can handle this. I need to be really careful, but I can handle it. So like with 3 crushes, for example, you can go like, all right. So I need to push attack this guy and actually hit him. I need to not tank that.
You're dead.
I was hoping the first push attack would actually hit the guy in the head. So this is by the way something else to watch out for. This, you have to aim up there if you want to hit it, because watch this. This push attack, one second. Actually, I'm going to stop him moving just to show this exactly, because this is a really important feature for this weapon. I have his head in my crosshairs. The push attack hits because he moved his head. But if I was this side, give me his health bar. That hit there.
Yeah, his armpit.
It's you see, if you the distance, it kind of comes up and it doesn't align with the model properly. It's like you're scraping it with the underside of a bar.
Yeah, so you just want to aim up and to the left so that you hit the right.
Yeah, it's like, imagine it's like a kind of a lance that's like a foot under the. You know what I mean? It's really weird. You have to get used to it, because if you aren't landing that, I just got fucked by it. It's especially with the overhead, and this is unironically genuinely important for crushers. This double-handed overhead, their arms will capture. Yeah, you have to do that. If you miss that, you won't get the 2-shot, and you just saw me get screwed by it. And I practiced that, not recently, but I practiced it. You can tank that hit, but not the other one.
I feel like I just don't want to be swinging when I see an ogre and overhead anyway. Especially now that it just straight up kills you through.
Yes, you have to do this. I can get away with it. It'll kill him if I don't miss.
I will say there are 5 or 6 weapons in Vet's arsenal that I would probably rather have if I was to clutch or needed to clutch in a really bad situation, just for the extra mobility. But I do I mean, like what you said, it's basically a
Also,
weapon now that requires, like, once you have the knowledge and the
oh yeah,
understanding, it's
check out
really good.
this.
Oh my god. Oh my god! The push tab just straight one shots them?
With the F up, if I had unyielding on this, it would one shot them without it. But this is an example of just where like one of these random breakpoints minus this gives me a one shot on a bulwark. If I had Carapace unyielding on this, I would one shot both the crushers and them. In fact, I can go do that. Actually, no, I can't, but because they don't have the perk specs. So this is also, by the way, this is an example of like this roll is so cursed. I have 10% elites on here because it gets me the two shot just on the crusher, along with the 8% melee weak spot and 12% brutal momentum. The other thing, by the way, to note, Rampage. Rampage is bugged. If you want to do the old meme, you just grab a Rampage, one of these. Do I even have one with Rampage? Uh, Maybe I have one of these somewhere, but like, basically, yeah, if you have a Power Sword 3 and old one of these, like Rampage and Power Cycler 2, a Power Cycler 4, you just press the funny button and you go, I'm playing a video game. Hey! And it's again, it's one of those things where it's like people always looked at it as horde clear in a can. That's what it is now. It's back to being horde clear in a can in a game where all the other horde clear is good enough that they don't come with the downsides. But if you are a full sharpshooter vet, your melee options are quite, you know what I mean? Like there's not really a free option. There's none of them are gonna be perfect. So yeah, I'd say it's that. It's a high risk, high damage thing, and that is pretty much all there is to say about the Power Sword 6. It is a very cool weapon. I strongly recommend Brutal Momentum because the other thing, Brutal Momentum is better because you know how it's like there's really two different ways that you could use it. One is like you have a weapon where I'm doing whatever and I want to get rid of these goobers over here and then go back to doing whatever I'm doing. Having Brutal Momentum means you get value on swing 1. Rampage means you get values on swing 2 and 3. Rampage is broken. It's incredibly good. No reason not to take it. You would always take Rampage over Slaughter at the moment. But I personally prefer Brutal Momentum, partly because you literally just left click into hordes at head height, and you are just killing 6 of them every single swing. It doesn't matter almost what is in this thing. You can bully any kind of mixed horde that would usually be annoying you. You just swing into it. And it's also agnostic about whether it's unarmored or armored. You don't need any breakpoints. There's no thing that you need to perk for it. Like this thing has 10% elites, and you just go, Oop, not like that though. You saw the charge fall off.
So Brutal
I
Momentum
did
and
it.
Power Cycler is ideal setup
Very,
for
very
right
good.
now.
Yeah, certainly for pinch swaps. And the other thing is just if they're coming, you can just prep a heavy if you really want to, because it's slightly extra value. But I mean, like 10 bruises. This is something that would be annoying with quite a lot of weapons. That last one should hit him, but also by the way, the unpowered moveset is all right. It's not amazing, but if there's like 3 bruises, you don't need to activate. It's good enough. More relevant if you have Rampage, but still. But the thing that I actually think is worth talking about is the Crusher, if you care.
I do care.